Welcome to the spirit of our area, where we ride beyond the map and every stop becomes a story. Today we're heading southeast from Penamacore on another short ride, this time to what has been described as the most Portuguese village in Portugal. Of course, it is Monsanto. Today, however, is no ordinary day in the village of Monsanto. Let's take a look and find out what's going on here. Today's ride is fairly short and it's just 30 minutes away, but we opted to take some of the more scenic roads from Penamacore to Monsanto. And this is a route that we've never taken before. We chose this route as the villages here are slightly higher up, so it should make for slightly more interesting riding. This route turned out not to be quite as high as I expected, but the view from Salvador was stunning. But here's the thing, whenever Monsanto is in view, it always pulls your attention to it regardless. Now, I'm fairly certain that the sat-nav might be a little bit wrong here, as we appear to be heading away from Monsanto, not towards it. But a quick recalculation and we were back on track. It's quite hard to explain the feeling of arriving at Monsanto, as from the base of the hill it's pretty much invisible. Monsanto doesn't have a large imposing castle to ward off attackers, it's just this great whopping hill. There are a few small car parks at the top of the hill and some on-road parking, but to be honest, we really didn't expect to be able to park up here today, so we are absolutely chuffed. Now, this isn't a road for second thoughts, it requires full commitment. It's steep, and I'm not keen on testing my hill starts if I have to give way to something bigger coming down the mountain. My bigger concern is stopping, as stopping on a steep hill is when I've already dropped my bike. I'll be honest, I wasn't going to come here yet. Yes, it's a Portuguese icon and it's close to home, but that hill, it just makes me want to give my bike keys away. Monsanto Village and Castle is perched high on the side of a granite giant, rising out of the seemingly flat landscape surrounding it. It rises to an elevation of 758 metres, so wear your sensible shoes when you visit. It is only about 100 metres of a climb, but it is all straight up granite streets, and it feels a lot bigger when you're actually doing it. And whilst we will have a little explore of the village today, the reason we're here is to take part in a ritual that was born of myth. We decided to visit on the Sunday, and all of the activities for this afternoon were to take place in the castle. As we arrived early, we took our time to weave through the granite streets and take a nose around all of the makeshift stalls lining the streets. Just a little disclaimer, as you get closer to the castle, there is nowhere to buy food and there is nowhere to buy drinks, so make sure you're prepared before you head on up. We arrived at the castle as the majority of people were attending a mass in the church at the top. So it was quite busy, but to be honest, it wasn't as busy as I thought it would be. When the mass ended, the procession began. The Virgin Mary holding the child Jesus were carried around the castle, and the ancient stone of the walls of the castle itself. As the procession returned to the church, the sound of the Penamacore Philharmonic filled the castle walls. But next came my favourite and the part I had been looking forward to the most. The traditional adufe music of this region. It's a sound that belongs to this landscape as much as the stone beneath our feet, like something ancient being remembered rather than performed. I did take some time to explore the castle. Monsanto isn't a hill with a castle on top. It is a fortification carved and shaped from the rock itself. From the ramparts, the landscape opens out in every direction, laid bare with nothing but hills and distance. Monsanto was shaped during the Reconquista a long period when Christian kingdoms pushed south across the Iberian Peninsula, building fortresses like this one on the frontier between worlds. The Knights Templar were often involved in building and holding these frontier castles, and sitting high on its granite hill, Monsanto Castle helped by acting as a defensible anchor, which was able to watch movement across a wide area, giving early warning of approaches from the enemy and providing a safe stopping point for messages and supplies. Monsanto lived and evolved as a frontier fortress, holding land, watching movement and securing the edge of the kingdom. And judging by today's festivities, they also held many parties. Following a short lunch break, the party continued. This time, the locals of Monsanto, wearing traditional clothing of the region, treated us to more adufe and dancing. Now it felt like the celebration had really begun. They gathered on a small outcrop of stone, and it felt as though, through their celebrations, they had come to a decision. The woman, carrying the story itself, seems to make a decision and leads the villagers up onto the castle ramparts. Now, I guess you're wondering, what does all of this represent? Well, it traces back to a legend that shapes this tradition in the village today. The legend says that the villagers of Monsanto held out for 7 years against a Roman siege. There's no actual evidence of this, so it's just a little bit of hearsay and a little bit of myth. To trick the enemy into thinking they still had food, they threw a well-fed calf down the hill. This today is represented by a very large floral arrangement. During this part of the ritual, everybody clambers through the tiny doorway and up the narrow steps. The villagers gather round, continuing to sing and beat the adufes. Throughout the village and amongst those carrying the tradition, you'll see these faceless dolls. These are called marafonhas, and they were created to mimic a thriving population. They feel a little bit creepy, to be honest, but sometimes a bit of confidence and a lot of roleplay is all it takes. And on that legendary day, it was enough. The Romans left. So obviously, the celebrations and singing continued, this time with a little more vigour and an accordion. Now the whole village erupted in jubilation, joining in with the singing and the clapping along with the beat. As we all made our way down from the castle, through the narrow granite streets, the joy, friendship and elation was clear to see. And I have no doubt that the singing and festa carried on into the night, but it was time for us to go. I was quite surprised at how local the festa felt. Yes, there were a number of foreigners there, but I imagine that most of those live locally. And I didn't expect such a small village festa to feel so well organised and so seamless. It didn't feel staged, it felt natural and deeply connected. I was absolutely thrilled to hear so much adufe music, the deep steady rhythm, a sound which belonged, echoing through the streets as if it had always been there. So as we trundled down, back through the winding streets, through the bustling village and back to our faithful steeds, we took another little look at the street vendors to see if there was anything interesting to buy, and hopped back on our bikes ready for the ride downhill. I headed down the steep hillside, yes, on the wrong side of the road, but I'm British, and then my husband informed me of my error and I corrected it rather quickly. For the ride home we stayed in the valley and through the villages, which was fun and winding. But it was a short ride and we were soon back home. Next week we're heading into Castelo to do something a little bit different. That was the Festa de Castelo de Monsanto. I hope you enjoyed it and thanks for coming along for the ride. If you enjoy finding out about the history of Portugal and some of the interesting things to see here in the central Portugal region, don't forget to give this video a like. And if you've got any suggestions to add, please put them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss next week's video.